Hello there, we've been doing some background on the Epistle of Paul to the Corinthian church, and we did that last week, and I'd like to just recap on some of that, emphasise it as we start to make our way through this most wonderful book. Corinth was a local church that was established by Paul the Apostle after the message of the gospel had been preached in Corinth, and that's recorded in Acts chapter 18. Paul states that he was the father to them in the faith, and he says that in First Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 15. So he has a personal relationship with these believers in Corinth. Now, Corinth was an important city of commerce in the days of the early church, and so it was a centre of trade, and there were two ports that brought goods and produce to Corinth, Centria and Lechium. Now, as a business centre and a busy port, it attracted a lot of varying types of people who were often there just for a short visit. You would often get sailors and merchantmen, salesmen and others. Unfortunately, this led to Corinth being very cosmopolitan, and it provided all sorts of pleasures and vice that goes with it. In Paul's day, it was a catchphrase to say that something was Corinthian or a person was Corinthian, meaning very immoral. No wonder Paul wrote to the Christians in Corinth saying that such were some of they, because God had saved people from that city and he had washed them. That's found in First Corinthians chapter 6, verses 9 to 11. God changed people's lives, and he does that today. That's the wonder of the gospel. God changes people's lives through the preaching of his word. But despite the change in their life, some of them still had sins that had characterized them in their previous life. And that's where the matter of immorality is dealt with in chapter 5, and drunkenness in chapter 11. And so God corrects these tendencies in their life. Now, that's common in Scripture. We don't see an immediate change in everyone, and sometimes people fall back to old ways, and sin must not have dominion legally and before God in our status. Sin has been dealt with, we're imputed with righteousness, but we have to learn to live in a way that is godly and pleasing to God. Hence the exhortations of Scripture that we should live out the faith and that we should work out our salvation. And so Paul would encourage them here, and when he writes to Titus and Crete, he encourages them there that they should not live according to the former lifestyle, but that they should walk in a way that is pleasing to God. The other problem that really rose and raised its head in that city was that of intelligence or academia. They had pride in their intellect. That was very common in Greek cities, and so they prided themselves in their intellect. The city of Athens was the same, as recorded in Acts chapter 17. And so we find here that the Spirit of God reminds them in chapter 1 and chapter 2 of this epistle that not many mighty, not many noble were called to salvation. Now we know it doesn't say not any, but it does indeed say not many. And we thank God that even today God still saves people from all stratas of society, all types of people, from all backgrounds and all circumstances. So the word of God is not to present the wisdom of men, but the wisdom of God. Now hopefully that fills in between last week and this week a little more information about the background to the people in this city. Paul is an apostle, and we start in chapter 1 where he states, Paul, called to be an apostle of Jesus Christ through the will of God, and Sosthenes our brother. So Paul is writing, he's writing in along with this other man Sosthenes, and he says that he has been called to be an apostle, a called apostle through or by the will of God. He is the writer. God has called him to this work, and he has been told that he will witness before kings, that he will witness before intelligent men and women, that he will suffer much for his faith. An apostle is one that is called by God to be a witness of the resurrection, and they're sent with a message from God. And so Paul, he identifies himself. And of course it has often been stated, and it has often been commented upon, that the apostle often, and well always, where the need requires, states his apostleship so that people would understand that his work is authoritative. He comes with the authority of God. He comes with a voice that God might be heard speaking to men and women. But the interesting thing is that he writes to the church of God, which is at Corinth. We've described to you a city which is cosmopolitan, which is a business centre, which has become a centre for pleasure, and which has got intellect and academia, no doubt. But here in this place, he is writing to a group of people who are now described as the church of God. The church has ears. We find that in the book of Acts. The church makes decisions. The church prays. The church gathers. So the church of God describes a collection of people in a specific locality. The church of God, which is at Corinth. Now that's a wonderful thing, because what it really means is in that locality, God had a people called out to his name. God had a people called by him, owning his name, responsible to him, owned by him. He says, it's the church of God, which is at Corinth. And you know where you live, and the people you meet with, they are also described by God as the church of God. It belongs to God. Acts chapter 20 tells us it was purchased by the blood of his own dear Son. And I trust that you really appreciate and value what God has in the local church. I trust that God would bless his word as we consider these things together today.